Agentic Changes everything. Is Starstruck the new Pressplay? And hello, FrankenOzzy. Welcome to the Unlimited Supply Podcast, your daily music business TLDR in your ear, powered by humans living in fragile equilibrium with AI, and brought to you by No Disc, helping music, technology, and finance companies navigate the music industry, and partnered with Digital Music News. I'm Lars Murray. It's May 26th, 2026. It's Tech Tuesday, and I hate pollen. But before we geek out, oh boy, there's a lot to catch up on this morning. I was a little busy at the end of last week, so we're perhaps a few days late on the news that Ed Sheeran is leaving Warner Music Group after a decade and a half or so. It's all flowers and rainbows on the way out. Warner gets to keep Ed's Warner catalog. They also get to keep distributing their licensed catalog, but Ed's moving along. You can expect to see a lot of deals like this happen in the future. Ed came in with a lot of power when he originally signed, having known his fans and owned his data at the start. And as more of the artists who followed in his footsteps mature, the post-major label phase is likely to become very common for superstars, especially after their guaranteed topping of the charts starts to wane. What the labels do best and what they reap at some point becomes less relevant to the established star, and it'll be interesting to see where Ed lands. Certainly landing him would be a big coup for two of the execs who accompanied him on his career elevator, former Warner High Mucky Mucks, Julie Greenwald, and Max Lousada of the recently formed 26.2. Jem Aswad had the deets over at Variety. While we're on the subject of getting out of your major label deal, Drake became the first artist ever to debut at number 1, 2, and 3 on the Billboard album chart over the weekend, as he dropped 3 albums last week, undoubtedly as a way of accelerating the end of his Universal Music deal. I'm just going to assume that Drake didn't get a ton of help from UMG, given that he's suing the crap out of them right now. But clearly he's going to do just fine without Universal at this point in his career. Okay, let's geek out. On Friday, we talked about the Spotify UMG deal and the chess game UMG was playing with generative AI startups Udio, as we refer to them. That's Suno and Udio. To recap, the Spotify deal keeps licensed AI music inside the walled garden of Spotify, but that garden is enormous, a walled prairie, so to speak, which enables it to compete with Udio on user experience and Suno, which is not a walled garden, using Spotify's enormous scale. What I missed last week was a deeper dive from Cherie Hu over at Water and Music on what Udio's standalone app called Starstruck would look like. Cherie got hold of a presentation involving Udio and its licensing partner Cobalt, which laid out some of what's going on over there. A few basic takeaways from me. The good: it's reasonably artist and songwriter friendly. Kudos to old friend Bob Bruderman and company over at Cobalt for getting 50% for the songwriters, which is a lot better than what songwriters get from streaming. The bad: monthly quotas on creation are downright 20th century. Great for the licensors, but not very user-friendly. And the ugly: it's a walled garden. And while Cherie points out that AI music fans and general superfans cross-index highly, which may make Starstruck a desirable tool for superfans, the fact that superfans can't share their Starstruck creations off-platform takes away the all-important social sharing element. No Instas, no TikToks, no YouTube Shorts, which means Udio had better get to securing exclusive stems and such from artists, because if Spotify has a similar offering, well, why do we need Udio? Sad to say right now, Udio is looking a little like the label-sanctioned download and streaming services like Rhapsody and Sony Connect and Pressplay that died on the hills that Apple and Spotify ended up capturing. But all this music, AI, Spotify, UMG deal stuff was dwarfed by another larger announcement that I didn't miss, but that required a little bit of thought and digesting and research. Last Tuesday at their annual development conference, Google announced a set of updates to its core user experience, some of which has already been launched, like AI mode, and some of which will be rolled out in the coming weeks, like a true agentic experience. What the latter thing means is that instead of just typing in a search item like Lady Gaga, you'll now be able to build a Lady Gaga agent, which will keep you informed on top of things that are going on in the Gaga-verse, and eventually even doing things like sending very specific alerts and even creating searches on its own based on new developments, and even conducting commerce on your behalf. It'll maybe queue you up to buy tickets, get you in on the limited edition releases, and such. It's not an exaggeration to say that Agentic changes everything. What just happened on the business side of everything is probably even more consequential than what's happening on the user side. We've all spent the last 20 years engaging in search engine optimization. You type in a search item, you get a bunch of blue links, and you scroll down till you find the one you like, or don't, in most cases, scroll a lot. Well, now you'll put in the search, instead of a bunch of links, Google's going to give you an answer, and it'll probably be less keyword-driven than action-driven, and all of this means that you're going to be corralled more than ever right back into Google, or never leave it all. So as a marketer or a label, the trick is going to be not only to come up first on the search result, but also to figure out what Google is going to say about you and how to surface your priorities in that environment, and how to, if possible, get them into your environment so that you're not having to pay Google the increasing tolls that is bound to charge on its environment. It also incidentally means that any third-party media on the open web that you're still engaging with is going to have the same problem. That New York Times article maybe doesn't show up as often. That Pitchfork review maybe gets a couple of words synopsis, but the link is buried, and anybody who's not a Pitchfork or the New York Times, maybe it doesn't show up as the third option like it does now. Maybe it doesn't show up at all. I'm not going to get all existential right now about this being another step into our Wall-E future and how agentic AI will both give us magic new abilities at the same time as it's making us stupider and more dependent on it, like, say, Google Maps has already done. Nope, not a lot of time to think about that while you are reorganizing your entire marketing stack for this all-encompassing new reality. We've been talking about it for years now. It's here, and the next 6 to 12 months are going to be a wild ride. Unlimited Supply listeners will undoubtedly be able to sing along with me when I say, know your fans and own your data. Everybody now, know your fans and own your data. The new Google brings into play an added lyric, an AI-driven remix of another kind. Know your fans and own your data while you still can. The Google shift got covered by basically everybody. Jay Peters at The Verge had the Tech First rundown, CNN covered the bullet points, and over at Puck News, Julia Alexander did a deep dive on just how cataclysmic this is for traditional media. All of this cataclysmic technological change maybe has you a little nostalgic for a simpler time, a time before AI agents, a time before iPhones, a time before 24/7 connectivity, the early 2000s, when our only concern was, when will Al-Qaeda mount a follow-up to the 9/11 attacks? Such an innocent, soft-edged, honey-coated time. Well, if you're nostalgic for those days, I have some good news for you. The top media icon of 2002, if you don't count Osama bin Laden, was the other man, Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy and family captivated a nation scarred by war and the dot-com bust. Ozzy and family showed the world a reality version of a slightly addled dad who never went to work but loved his wife and kids, the very model of the post-industrial modern family. Ozzy, of course, is no longer with us, but in this case, it's not the rumor of his demise that is exaggerated, it's the documented fact of his demise that's exaggerated. That's because the Osbournes and a company called Hyperreal are bringing Ozzy back from the dead. Yes, they are developing Robo-Ozzy. I'm not going to call it Zombie Ozzy. He would probably prefer FrankenOzzy. Over at Digital Music News, Ashley King had the story. According to Jack and Sharon Osbourne, who appeared at the International Licensing Expo last week, the hyperreal FrankenOzzy will not just be an onstage avatar like ABBA Voyages or the coming wave of holographic recreations. Nope, you'll be able to talk directly to Ozzy and receive his wisdom. As Jack Osbourne put it, it's kind of scary. Well, it is Ozzy, but maybe not quite as scary as Google going agentic. As for the week ahead, pretty quiet this week in the post-Memorial Day lull. In the 2 weeks between now, New York Music Week and Indie Week, the big event this week is Roots Picnic in Philadelphia. Support for Unlimited Supply is provided by you, our listeners, and we have a couple of new rewards for your support. Sign up for a full year of support and get the limited edition Unlimited Supply Merit Badge Trucker Hat, which we manufactured in limited quantities by popular demand. We did our part and made them. Now you please do your part and go buy them. The hat is a classic mesh snapback mid-rise trucker cap, perfectly cooling for summer with the iconic Unlimited Supply Merit Badge on the front. You can get it at unlimitedsupplypod.com. If you like what you hear, please hit that follow button wherever you get your pods, including now Substack, and drop us a rating and or a review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or Spotify, and tell a friend or three. Links are in the show notes, but you can also visit unlimitedsupplypod.com to sign up for our newsletter, to tell us what you think about the show, to suggest feature ideas, to feed us info, to feed us lunch, to call us out on our dubious assertions, and to tell us what we're missing out on. I'm Lars Murray, and remember, in this business, no conflict means no interest.